I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Stuart Rice. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I am doing fantastic. The weather here in Portland is very windy, but beautiful.
Wonderful. Hey, Stuart, it's a great pleasure to connect with you. Please do tell us which of your talents is responsible for us meeting.
Well, I guess my talent for doing improv sketch comedy would be the...
Love it.
Yep.
Yeah, so tell us more, please.
So I have a podcast. It's called Sketch Comedy Podcast Show, where I invite interesting people like yourself onto the show. We have a little bit of a conversation, and then at the end of the conversation, based off what we talked about, we come up with a improvised comedy sketch right there on the spot, perform it, and then what I do is I produce it afterwards, so it sounds really good.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Now
It's a lot of fun.
The artwork, right, on your LinkedIn page. Wow, right. So it's the combination of 4 colors, right?
Correct.
And then there's the circle thingy there, right, with the running stickman, if you would, but it's a mic. Love it.
Thank you. That's the company I just started for producing podcasts. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. So tell us about the company. Tell us where we could go to find out more, please.
Well, right now for the company, you can go to marathonproductionsllc.com, and that basically takes you to the Facebook page. It is brand new. I'm currently producing a couple podcasts that actually haven't launched yet, but we're working our way there. But if you're interested in seeing what I've got up currently and what I'm kind of hoping to help other people do, you can go to sketchcomedypodcastshow.com and check out that, because there's lots of other really great artwork out there too.
Yeah, you are amazing. So who did you learn this skill from?
It's I think it was a learned skill over time. I always loved Saturday Night Live, and I loved all of the I'm a huge Robin Williams fan, and I always was really interested in sketch comedy, but I never actually did anything with comedy because comedy's hard.
Yeah, it
So
is.
I was very fortunate. I met somebody that we shared a good sense of humor together, and we were able to work together. And I just said, "Hey, let's grab a couple microphones, set them up, and see what happens." So we grabbed a couple of, are you familiar with the video game Rock Band?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grabbed a couple of those crappy USB Rock Band mics, set them up in front of our faces, and we came up with a couple of sketches and recorded it, and we were hooked. So that's the genesis of all of this. Is it was just we were both funny and we liked making jokes together. So we thought, we'll just do it for funsies on the internet.
Yeah. Which is always even more fun, right? It's like fun magnified, right? Because then you get an audience that listens, and then it just keeps going, right?
Yeah, that is actually one of the best parts is when someone will walk up to me. Maybe it's somebody I know, maybe it's somebody that has actually heard this show, and will just state a line from the show. And that always catches me off guard, because I'm like, whoa, I heard that someplace before. Oh, I said it.
Well, that is a wonderful. So, all right. So there are definitely the challenges with being a podcaster. Now you're jumping into being the podcast producer as well. Why will you continue to repeat this skill, nevertheless?
I actually really have always. I was an early adopter with podcast listening, and had I thought I had anything to say to the world, I would have started way back in like 2005. But it just took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to say, and now that I've figured out. I haven't really figured out how to do it all the way yet. I haven't been as successful as I'd like to be, but I think I've found a lot of ways to make it, at least the sound of the podcast, sound really good. So helping people not only discover their voice, but be able to convey their voice in an effective way is something I can definitely help people with. And over time, I've learned how to connect with an audience. And so that's something else I can also share. So it's a lot of people have ideas for podcasts, some of them good, some of them bad. I'm not here to judge, but I think it's really good when that mentorship happens and someone can see, oh, that's how to do an effective way to do that. Like, it's not just an interview show. It's a 12-minute interview show with lots and lots of people,
Yeah.
and that's your hook, and you find that hook and you're able to go with it.
Yeah, definitely having a mentor to help with that can save so much time and pain, and even if you would, my word, demotivation, right? So yeah, definitely do check that out. Amazing audience, Stuart Rice. Stuart, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
Over the last 3 years, you know what I do is I actually got this tip from Chris Hardwick, not from him personally, but from his book. Is whether it's painful or not, whether it doesn't really fit with you or not, I highly suggest getting self-improvement books. And
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I'm going to pitch one right now.
Yeah, shoot.
Guest on it was a guest. He was a guest on the podcast. His name's Sean McCabe, and he wrote a book called Overlap. For anybody that's interested in doing any sort of extracurricular outside of your day-to-day job, such as a podcast or anything like that, this book is amazing. It's incredibly inspirational. He speaks in a very, it's just soothing tone throughout the entire book, and it just gives you great ideas on how to stay energized and how to keep doing it and do this second thing, that your passion, and make it your main job, and how to do it in an effective manner.
Yeah,
So,
I love that. Again, say the name of the author, please. So it's
yeah,
Overlap by.
Sean McCabe.
There we go. There we go. I'll definitely check that out.
Good.
All right. So, how does it make you feel? So did you say the thing? Yeah, you said personal development books. So, all right, how does that make you feel?
Every time I read one, it's so funny because I'll read anything that's a self-improvement book, and a lot of people will poo-poo a lot of self-improvement books. But my feeling is, every time I read one, even if I read a 300-page book cover to cover, and I only get one thing out of it, I got that one thing out of it. Or maybe it reinforced an idea that I already had. But I find that the more of those types of things, those little nuggets that I get, the better off I am. And sometimes you find a book that just, oh my God, just blows your mind, and it's incredible. So.
Yeah. You know, you were speaking there, and it felt like what salesmen or sales coaches teach you, that sometimes you need to get over another no before you get the yes. And I think the books that you only get one thing as opposed to many things, that it's just like that. Like, you need to get over those books too as well, right? Before you get to the really amazing stuff like Overlap, right, by Sean McCabe, right? It's like you got through books and then you got to this place. So I think it connects, right? It just pushing that in there.
I totally agree with you. Sometimes it just has to open your mind so that you can read that next book and be like, oh my gosh, I got all this stuff. Like, it's just the key sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear a word and then you hear it over and over and over again throughout the day. Like, you've never heard the word before, but then all of a sudden that's the only word you pick up on.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing.
Like we're improvising here. Or even when you buy a car, or your mother buys a car, or a family member buys a car, and then you're seeing the car, right? Or
yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Love it. Well, amazing audience. We are live with Stuart Rice. Do check him out. Again, he is the podcast host of Sketch Comedy Podcast, and his new business, his new thing, Marathon Productions LLC. You could check that out at marathonproductionsllc.com. Stuart Rice, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Stuart, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I think my earliest childhood memory is I'm in the kitchen with my mom, and she was cooking something on the kitchen top, and the towel that she was using caught on fire. And I just remember I was like 2 years old, and I just remember freaking out, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be the end at this like tender age of 2.
Whoa.
That's one of my earliest memories, is that.
Wow.
And then I also remember playing with Legos at a very young age, but that's the one that really sticks out.
So why do you think this memory in the kitchen is so clear?
I think it's because it was traumatic for a 2-year-old. Like, as you're older, like, you see a fire in the kitchen, it still freaks you out, but you're like, oh, we got it taken care of. But as a little child, like, you're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
You see this thing, this high danger, and you see your mom, who's supposed to be like, that's your rock at the time. She's scared. It freaks you out a little bit. So hopefully that didn't, that didn't necessarily direct my entire life. But yeah, that's actually the first memory I've got.
Well,
Yeah.
can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the development of drama, like you said it, right? It's probably dramatic, but yeah, I definitely love the idea of how drama developed in the in the theater production of what was occurring, right? So I'm guessing you're seeing the cloth, and then it touches the light, the fire, and then boom, and the fact that your mind captured all of that is really fascinating, because it is the thing and the way your mind processes even to this day, right? Even with what you do via sketch comedy, right? It's very similar, isn't it?
It really is. I have to, in a lot of ways, I have to conceptualize and catch all of the different pitfalls that can happen even within a sketch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's
I see what you're saying.
fascinating. Yeah. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Oh, when I was 12 years old, and what was my favorite song? It had to have been a Weird Al Yankovic song.
Yeah.
I would probably say it was, yeah, actually, it was probably a song by Weird Al Yankovic called "Christmas at Ground Zero," and it's a Christmas song, and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
But I
guess it connects, right? It connects, right? Sketch comedy.
Yeah, darn it. Because it's so predictable.
All right, Stuart, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form, so it's yes or no. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Stuart, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
It's chosen somebody to pass off my skills to. I think actually my 13-year-old son, has some potential for doing something like this.
Sweet. Now, are you married?
I'm not. I divorced about 5 years ago. Happily divorced.
All right.
I was happily married for a while, but I'm happily divorced now.
All right. This is the first time I've heard that. But
Yeah.
All right. So you have one son, right?
I actually have 3 kids, believe it or not.
All right.
Yeah, I have a 20-year-old daughter, a 17-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old.
That was wonderful. Now, do you believe in God?
I don't. That's a whole nother subject. But yeah, that's not something I believe in. But I certainly respect everybody's beliefs in that regard.
All right. Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do. I do have an inner circle of friends. We don't connect as much as we probably should.
Yeah.
Isn't that just weird how that happens?
Yeah,
that just
it's
happens
like you grow up, and then you think when we do grow up, we'll have the time and we'll be in control of our time and we'll connect and we'll be, and then life happens, right?
Right. Even if we have these great connection tools, right? Like even like Skype, it's a great connection tool. It's still hard to find that time.
Yeah, I mean, I've never spoken on this point, but I think what happens is you grow apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
I don't have the time to.
Okay. What about 3 hours a week?
Oh, definitely 3 hours a week.
What about screen time? The phone and the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It's less than 8 hours a day, but it's usually because the other screen time I do is in windshield time. I do a lot of driving around for my day job.
Right.
But a lot of when it's not that kind of screen time, between the podcast, my job, and all of the other stuff, there's a lot of screen time.
I love that, though. I never thought about windscreen time. Yeah. Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Still, after having 1,001 conversations in 3 months, I came up with a workbook. The name of it is called Yours, and it stands for your own unique real self. And connected to that is your own unique real statement, your mission as you dig deeper, right? If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Stuart Rice, what would you say that is?
I want to find within everybody that one nugget of goodness, and help everybody kind of develop that one nugget of goodness into something that they can share with others. That's genuinely, like, in my day job, in my podcast life, that's really what I want to do, is I want to help people find that thing.
Love it. Stuart Rice, this was amazing. Hey, thank you, my friend, again for doing what you're doing by being here. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
No, just I think this show's amazing, and I think your audience is fantastic for supporting you on this. And I think it's great. Thank you so much for the invite.
You're welcome, Stuart Rice. Thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.